So Josh Donaldson has officially called it quits on his baseball career. Since his announcement that he's hanging up the cleats, I've seen a lot of different reactions about what his legacy will be. And to that I say, I think a lot of people forgot just how good Josh Donaldson was. I mean, the bringer of rain was integral to bringing baseball relevancy back to Canada. JD's career ended unceremoniously, and he got his name in the headlines for more bad than good, but let's take a look back at the prime of Josh Donaldson. Josh's story took a while to begin. He was drafted in 2007 out of Auburn University, taken in the first round by the Chicago Cubs. But his time in the Windy City would never come. After just over 100 games in the Cubs minor league system, he was traded to the Oakland A's in a package to bring stud pitcher Rich Harden to Chicago amidst their strong 2008 season. Oh, I think this is a good time to mention that Josh Donaldson, he was a catcher back then, and a pretty damn good one at that. His caught stealing rate was pushing right up towards 40% during his time in the minor leagues. He'd get his first chance in the bigs in 2010, following an injury to the A's backstop Kurt Suzuki. And in just his third major league at-bat, Josh Donaldson went deep. But the rest of his 2010 season in Oakland wouldn't be quite so grand, finishing with an OPS plus of just 32 in 34 plate appearances. And with a healthy Kurt Suzuki back with the team, Josh would sit the entirety of 2011 and the better part of 2012 in AAA. By the time Donaldson would get back up in the big league ball club, he had converted over to third base, where he'd remain for the rest of his career. And come 2013, Josh would begin the season, starting at the hot corner, and finally, at the age of 27, have his breakout moment. Just in game number 11 of that year, JD called game with the 12th inning walk-off homer versus the Detroit Tigers. Donaldson was instrumental in helping Oakland secure their second consecutive AL West title, winning 96 ball games in 2013. And even though the A's would go down in the first round, it was an incredible season for Josh, slashing .301, .384, .499, hitting 24 home runs while playing some impressive defense at one of the game's toughest positions. And he was voted 4th most valuable in the American League that season, including one vote for first place. 2014 would be another good one for Donaldson, as he was named an All-Star for the first time in his career. He'd also compete in that year's Home Run Derby, but ultimately be outshined by his Oakland teammate Yoenis Cespedes, who'd win his second straight Derby crown. By now, JD had built himself a reputation as one of baseball's best defenders. He was credited with 15 defensive runs saved in 2014, which was the highest of any third baseman that year. And Josh would also begin his reputation of ending games. He hit 3 walk-off homers that year alone. But after that season concluded, Oakland GM Billy Beane, true to his nature of letting players go before they hit free agency, decided to trade the face of their franchise. The Toronto Blue Jays gave up a haul, or at least at the time, a perceived haul, to land the superstar 3B. They sent their own third baseman, a former, very high-regarded prospect in Brett Lowry, and a trio of current young players with lots of promise: Franklin Barreto, Kendall Graveman, and Sean Nolan. But needless to say, I think the team up north got the better end of the bargain, because that very next season, Josh Donaldson took home the AL Most Valuable Player honors, narrowly beating out the Angels' Mike Trout. 2015 was the year Josh Donaldson became a true rock star in Major League Baseball. He hit 41 homers and knocked in an AL-leading 123 runs. Josh set a new MLB record for the most votes to get him into the All-Star game, with just over 14 million. Donaldson would once again put the team on his back, hitting yet another 3 game-ending walk-off home runs. He propelled Toronto, who was a game under 500 by the All-Star break, with a meteoric second half, raising the Jays up to first place with 93 wins and reaching the postseason for the first time since '93. They'd square off against Texas in that year's ALDS, where Josh would uncork a 2-run shot to get the scoring started early for Toronto, who would go on to win and force a Game 5 where Jose Bautista would deliver somehow only the second most electric home run in franchise history. Unfortunately, the steam would run out there for the Jays as they'd lose to the eventual champion Royals in 6 games in the ALCS. But Josh would prove there ain't no rest for the wicked, as he'd lead the Jays back to the playoffs following an even slightly better statistical season in 2016, although this time he'd only finish 4th in MVP voting. 37 homers with an OPS at 153. Ballots be damned, Josh Donaldson had cemented himself as one of the game's best players. After beating the Baltimore Orioles in the wild card round, the Jays would again best the Texas Rangers, sweeping them 3-0, much thanks to Josh Donaldson and his staggering 1,418 OPS within those games. He also scored the series-ending run in Game 3 after making a heads-up play on a Rougned-Odor error. And despite another series of heroics from JD, both with the lumber and the leather, the Jays were no match for the 2016 Cleveland Indians. Toronto was held within 2 runs, 4 games out of the 5, and they were shut out in 2 of those. 2017 was a stumble for both the Blue Jays and their star third baseman. Toronto would win just 76 games, finishing in 4th place in the AL East, while Josh Donaldson would suffer the first of many calf strains that would see him miss significant time. Just 113 games played in 2017, but his time spent on the field held up good as ever, hitting 33 homers, including this 481-foot blast, and once again finishing with an OPS nearly 50% better than the league average hitter. But come 2018, the injuries began to pile up for the former MVP. Between his shoulder and the right calf, Donaldson sat out nearly 120 games that season during a contract year. Despite being 32 years old at the time, Josh was just finally ready to hit unrestricted free agency that fall. Between that and the Jays' continued struggles, Toronto's GM decided to trade him away, with the Cleveland Indians picking up the phone. Given that JD had just about a month left on his contract, the Tribe only had to give up a middling prospect in Julian Merriweather to acquire him. And for what it's worth, he was pretty good in the 16 games he played in Cleveland, despite seemingly nobody remembering that he actually played there. Josh signed just a 1-year deal with Atlanta that offseason and proved he had something left in the tank. 37 dingers with an on-base percentage at .380, while playing some slick defense at third. But he'd find himself signing a much hardier 4-year, $92 million contract with the Minnesota Twins that next year. A very sweet deal for him, heading into his age 34 season. And as a Twins fan, I can tell you, it was very exciting at the time signing a big-name player to a team that had just won the AL Central in back-to-back seasons. But it was also pretty clear that it likely would not be worth it. To be fair, Donaldson was pretty good with the Twins. In 2 combined years equaling about 1 full season, he swatted 32 home runs and hit to a tune of a 128 OPS+. But his time in the land of 10,000 lakes would end abruptly when he was traded to the Yankees ahead of the 2022 season. And of course, it'd all go off the rails from there. The New York crowd was without mercy to Donaldson's poor play, and Josh wouldn't do himself any favors getting into conflict with other players. And now, for the 8th time in his career, Donaldson would pack his bags and head to a new team, this time to Milwaukee, where he'd play 16 games before ultimately retiring at the age of 38. All in all, Josh Donaldson had himself one hell of a prime, even if it didn't last quite as long as some other MVPs the game has seen. He measured in as the second clutchest player in Major League Baseball according to Fangraphs between 2013 and 2017, and he amassed the third most win probability added in that same time span. And I think it's important to remember that aging does happen. It shouldn't be a surprise that Donaldson's numbers started to plummet as he reached his mid-30s. That's life. It's hard for me to blame a guy for picking up a pen. If a team is willing to give you next to $100 million at the age of 34, you best be signing that contract. But for the team, you ought to know the risk entailed. So let me know down below in the comments section what your favorite Josh Donaldson moment is. There's certainly a lot of them. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like down below. Plenty more to come. Thank you for watching.